Hi there, my name is Donovan Fernandez, and this past fall I used Target Test Prep to help me prepare to take the GMAT as a part of my business school journey. Um, a little bit of background on myself. I went to Dartmouth for undergrad, and since then I have been working in customer strategy at a marketing tech company. I was in New York for a little bit of time, and I've been in DC for the past almost 2 years, and I've really enjoyed my time at this company in my current role, but I have sort of known all along that it wasn't something that I wanted to do forever. And I also have known for a long time that business school was something that I pictured for myself. And as a result, it just sort of felt like the right time to, start my business school journey and hopefully use that to pivot into something else career-wise. I actually didn't really figure that out until around this time last year. So I would definitely say that I started on my journey a little bit late. But I, thankfully was able to work really hard over the last summer, and, also into the fall on all of my applications and whatnot. And I'm really happy to say that I will be going to Kellogg as part of the Triple M program, and it's actually starting in the summer as opposed to the fall. So I will be heading off quite soon, which is very exciting, and I'm very grateful for that opportunity. For my initial test, I started off with just a practice test. I wanted to kind of, go from a blank slate, just see where I was at, so I knew where I could improve, and what I needed to focus most on with my studying. I actually only scored a 565, I believe, in that test. I hadn't taken a math class since college. I was really just trying to get a baseline so I knew what to study. But, it became very clear that the whole test, I remember feeling very rushed. I didn't really have the time management piece down, especially on the math section. There were some concepts that I just hadn't practiced in so long, I didn't even really know how to do, would spend too long on some questions and not enough on others. Overall, it was clear that I had a lot of work to do. And so thankfully, by the end of the Target Test Prep program, I did get that score all the way up to 655. And most importantly, I got my Quant score up to the 90th percentile, which was a really big reason why I wanted to take the GMAT in the first place, because in my professional role, I don't do a lot of numbers work. There's not really anywhere on my business school applications that emphasize my Quant skills. And so as a result, I thought it was really important that I scored well in that section on the GMAT. So I started my journey, like I mentioned, in the spring of last year. I gave myself 3-ish months to study over the summer, and then planned to take the GMAT in August, and then pretty much immediately go into focusing on my round 1 applications from there. Looking back, I definitely could have given myself more time. I should have started the process a little bit earlier, because, not really committing to it until late spring was definitely crunched my timelines a little bit. And, I had to work really hard and spend a lot of hours and weekends and really doing everything, kind of making business school applications my life for most of that summer, which is, not the funnest thing, but ended up being worth it in the end, obviously. And I'm so happy for that. Target Test Prep, I heard from a friend who had taken a live course, that she had really enjoyed it. I knew that I also wanted to do some sort of course to structure my GMAT studying, so I looked around, looked at some reviews. Target Test Prep it just felt like the right one for me. I really especially loved the LiveTeach portion. It felt really good to just kind of have a group of classmates and feel like we were kind of all in it together, especially with the instructor. He was fantastic. His name was Ben. It was very clear that he really cared about each of us and our success, and was always willing to go the extra mile to help us out, even kind of answering questions on the side. I actually found so much value in taking the live class itself that while I had some traveling going on towards the end of my scheduled program, I was actually going to be camping, but I still felt like I was getting so much good value from it that I actually brought my laptop with me, and I was able to find kind of a lodge where I could get Wi-Fi and still be able to take those classes while that was going on. And so it was really definitely beneficial for me to stick it out until the end, and I thought the live classes were particularly valuable. I think especially something that I noted was that they were at a really good cadence. I thought that the pacing was great. We would never go too fast to leave anyone behind, but at the same time, if there was something that we, were kind of taking too long on, then would not be afraid to, say, hey, we can, talk more about this later. Or he would do a session with, someone on the side if they were struggling with something, and sort of keep the whole class moving along. It never felt like we were rushing through anything. And at the same time, it also felt like we stayed on schedule the whole time. We were never thinking, okay, well, we got to rush through this to finish it before the next class or something like that. And in addition to the live class-based portion, I also really liked the kind of self-paced online version, or just online learning, because having that at the same time enabled me to focus on things that I wanted to improve more and kind of reinforce any of those topics that I wanted some extra practice on, while the live class was there just to kind of keep me accountable, and really be learning live, who had with someone who was able to walk me through things and ask questions too in real time. I thought that was fantastic. Like I mentioned, another part that I really, really enjoyed about the live classes was my instructor, Ben, and how it was really clear that he truly cared about us as individuals, and he tailored the course to help us all succeed. It was clear that that was his goal, which I thought was just fantastic. He was an amazing instructor. The regular classes and the kind of homework that they provided were super valuable just as a way to create structure for my studying. So, I would always know what I could work on next. And then any extra time I had in between classes, if I had already done the homework for the next class, I was able to work through the curriculum and the platform itself, or just do a bunch of practice problems. And that also, would help me kind of feel more prepared going into those classes. As far as just general tips, any advice I would give, I would say start earlier than you think you need. I'm obviously an extreme example of that. I think I started well later than I should have, and very, very glad I was able to just sort of grind my way through and luckily still come out at the end with good results. But definitely give yourself more time than you need. It never hurts to, if you don't like your first score, or you want to have time to take another test, and get that score in after another few weeks of studying, and then you can hopefully use that better one in your applications or something like that. The other thing, as far as the studying itself, I would block off time for yourself multiple times every week. Even if you're not taking a live course, I think it really helps to just say, hey, I'm going to use this dedicated time, these 3 hours on every Monday, Wednesday, and Sunday for the rest of the summer. That is my GMAT studying time. That is my business school application time. Being able to really focus on that and not have any other distractions and have that time that I knew was coming every week was really helpful. And then lastly, I would just say don't be discouraged by failure. The GMAT is a really hard test, and things aren't always going to go your way, especially early on when you are very early in your journey. It's going to be hard. You're not going to get a fantastic score on your first try. You might even get a really, really good score on the practice exam. I did, and then not quite score as well on the regular test, which can, of course, be a little bit disappointing. But there are a lot of other factors in play there, and you can't beat yourself up over it. You got to, just pick yourself up and keep trying. I'd say overall, I would definitely recommend Target Test Prep. For all the reasons I've already mentioned here, and many, many more. Yeah.